all, this is Tabitha here for Some Mud Girl, and I am gonna do my first video in a very long time. Today I thought I would recreate something that I did for the Halloween blog hop, but we're gonna make it a little Christmassy and festive. So for this, you are going to need the Build a Snowman clear stamp, and then I use the sentiment from Santa clear stamp. So but that's optional. The biggest part of this is that we want a 3D motif. And in order to do that, you need to start with kind of a blank. And this is what I got from the Silhouette library. It is a tree roughly the size of the clear stamp, which I measured the clear stamp to make sure that it was about the same size. Working with an SVGs, which is what you find for Silhouette Cameo and the new Cricut and whatnot. You want to be able to resize things, or if you have a physical die, you might be able to do a little bit of this and that to get it to work. But what you're really looking for is something about the size of the stamp and that it's symmetrical, because we will be folding them in half, and so you want the ends to meet up, and each one needs to be identical. So that's kind of the basis of this. To start off, I went ahead and I stamped out the stamp 5 different times, because I decided with the pumpkin, I wanted it to be, 3D as well. So I thought the tree would be really good. So I just kind of looked at the stamp and noticed that there were, different layers there, and I counted about 5. So that's what I went. And this is what we're going to end up with. And it does stand. So, but I went ahead and put a loop on it so it can go on my tree. And then some optional kind of things, stickles, some glitter snow that I did. Rounded bits and things that you want to do. So, but I wanted to get started because there's kind of a lot of steps, and this is a bit time consuming. So stamp it 5 times and color each layer. What I did is I colored each one. You see the good blending in the layer. So this is my first layer, this is my second. But then the layer above it, which will also be included, I just took my G16, which is my juiciest of the pens, my darker colors, and then I shaded above that. The thing is that when you're looking from the side, to see a bunch of white there, it doesn't look so pretty. So to have the same color, or I usually do gray. Either way, both works. But I also wanted to do is take my darkest color back in and add in some, just flicking out some branches that you can see. This is a good stamp to go back to normal blending. And this is a perfect stamp for this 3D layering kind of a thing. So once you have those, you want to fussy cut each and every section of that, which is where the time comes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you very quickly. The white part we don't need. I'll do it on the smallest section so I can tell you. And think of it this way, your base layer, the 5th one, is the base layer. So this is what all of them are going to stack up on. So you could go, each one, and then you can see it layered. But for a quick and dirty kind of fussy cutting, you want to include the outside. And then from here, there's not a black line there. So I'm just kind of guessing it and not doing it straight. I'm just kind of making my way over to it. So you can see how it's kind of curvy on the bottom, and that will fit through with the rest of them as we layer them. And then in order to prep each section, what we want to do is take your lightest color and go along the edge of where the green is. Again, it's just these little details that can make a difference. And then take a gray or a black and go along where the black outline is. Okay. So the first section is done. I'm going to go ahead and pause you for now, and I'm going to do all the rest of the sections, and then we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And you see here that I have it all layered up, so you get a good idea of how it's going to look when it's layered. But here are the individual pieces. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, and our base layer. The next step is kind of annoying, but it works. It's just everything is kind of time consuming on this, and I have a little one sleeping right now, so it's kind of, if you feel that I'm rushing, that's why. The next step is we want to put foam on the back of this so that each one is raised up a little bit. That's part of the 3D paper piecing is what we're kind of doing. And so what I do is that I use a whole sheet of fun foam, and then I size it to whatever size I use. And to get the best kind of adhesion, I actually go ahead and use tacky glue. I want the liquid form, because even though you still can take fun foam apart with liquid form, it's a lot harder than with the glue gun. Not glue gun is the best, but I mean tape glider. And any time that I'm doing a 3D paper piecing, especially with actual paper or making a 3D ornament in this case, when I have paper against paper and I want a very strong bond that's going to last forever and gives me the ability to position things as it's drying, I absolutely go to Aliens is one of my favorites. Plus this one stands up, gives me a nice tip at the bottom. So this is our base, so it doesn't need anything behind it, but we have this little section there, which is just kind of a long triangle. So I just kind of eyeball it. Sometimes I go around with like a stylus or something like that, just to mark it out. Also, we will be using the stylus here. That is something else that I do when I 3D paper piece, and it just makes it a bit smoother. The section that is going to be out, I take a stylus, and my stylus, this is an old Staedtler art knife, and the rest of the bits, they were plasticky and they broke and cracked, but then I found out that this part here is really good broad stylus. Otherwise, this one's a bit too small, but it does work. But in this case, I just want a big kind of circular motion on the back where I have colored, and you can see where it's concentrated. That is where I actually sat down and blended. And what it does is it gives me a nice kind of rounded shape, and it looks really good at the end versus straight. It's kind of what I did with the pumpkin, and it came out real good, but this little trick, this little thing just adds something. Okay, so there's our triangle piece. And it is a good size. It's a good fit there. There's going to be some areas that don't have the fun foam, but that's normal. So all I do, I don't want to use too much. You don't want it spilling out. But you do want that ability to adjust a little bit. And the reason why I suggest tacky glue is because you need it to grab. And in fact, Aliens has a foam glue, which we don't have here in Sweden, but I have seen it. So you could do all the foam and then you can layer it, but I tend to layer it as I'm going because it reminds me why I'm doing this, and this is kind of the fun part of it. So I'm going to put the liquid glue all over it. The part that doesn't have the foam on, it's going to be flat because that is the part we're building on. And you don't have to have the whole image. It's just, it's something that I started doing. So I could have cut it off here, but I don't know, that's how I do it. So I think it adds to the thickness overall, which can be a bad thing. So if you need to cut down bulk, then you can cut it above. Just make sure that the next layer will cover your cut. And then you'll still want to go around that cut edge with the marker, so you're not leaving white on the side. So as you see, I'm pressing down and holding it just a little bit a second to make sure that the tacky glue grabs. And we have our first layer built up. Our second layer. Okay, so now we go on to the next layer, which is that one. And I see from my blending, it's this kind of big section. So I can take, just kind of use my thing, anything that I can really around, just to kind of rough it out. And you don't want it to the edges, that's for sure. And also with a fun foam is that you can easily cut things off and piece them together, and it works. So it's a good shape, but I know it's too long, so I need to go cut it off to about there. Let's just use my finger. And I tend to round out my edges, just so. Okay, and I see that this needs to go in. So it's really about playing. If you're using the squares, then you just kind of build up the squares. I also used a lot of squares when I was doing it that way and put them close together and try to build up a solid amount of foam there. And because it just, when you have a solid base and have only the sides kind of overlapping, then you know that when someone touches it, it's not going to dent, which has definitely happened before. Let's see, and I forgot to use my stylus on this. And so that one's a lot flatter than this one is kind of bent and hanging down. But I can do a little corner of it. See? Nothing is set in stone when you have a little bit of time with you. Okay, that actually works quite nice there. So now we put glue on all of it. Now this is something I probably would normally fast forward through, but I had a hard time when I was first trying 3D decomposing, visualizing this part. So I found a good video of it, and when the artist was going really slow, I got the idea of it. So then I felt comfortable enough to try it. I tend not to do complicated images in this manner. I just think when it has too many parts of it. You can do one of the images that we have at Summon Girl for that, and you could break it up to as many or as little. You can just do this to like a skirt. That would be good. And just have the skirt out and then have the rest of the body. Like on Kaylee or May. That would be cute. I think that's a good idea to try it. You want to make sure that the glue bites before you kind of go on to the next session, because you can't really lift everything back up just to go back in. So we're going to start with the stylus on this part. And this one is a pretty big area. This is our biggest area. So what we need is something like, like that. The reason why I use black, I think a dark green would work well too, but because I just want it to be hidden. That's also why I don't go all the way to the edges. The black is pretty hidden. I have white works the same. I have used color if it matches it. So like I said, in this case, a dark green, or if it was a blue image, then I've done blue, but black is my favorite. It adds to, it looks like a shadow, so you don't see the blaring whiteness of the foam. Okay. And you really have to push down lightly, because if you get pushed too far down on the foam right away, it can move around on you. But once it bites, and you'll know, you kind of know what I'm talking about when it bites. It's where it starts to dry, but not all the way cured. So it's really hard to, it gets really sluggish to move, and it takes a lot of effort to move, and then sometimes it'll stop. You can't even move it anywhere, depending upon the tackiness. I have a quick dry, and I have an extra tacky, and that one is really hard to position things. But here I have just enough time to move, to position, to make sure that everything is lined up where I want it to be. And if it's not perfect, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with imperfectness. Okay, and our last section, which is the top crown. I still do with that, and I have this. I did have fun. I had a black tape that was already, it was a foam tape. I think it's scrapbooking adhesives. I'm not sure about that. But that worked really well, but it's like all tapes, it's a long rectangle. And since it already had the sticky tape on it, I couldn't actually, cut around it and get little things. It was hard to get like hands and arms, which I also want a solid piece of foam behind, even just in my regular cards. Because the more solid foam that I have behind it, the more secure it is on the card. And since mine all ship internationally, I need to make sure that they get there in one piece. So there's nothing worse than sending a card and have something fall off on it. Okay, this one's, since there's such a big piece of foam on this, it's harder, so I need to press a little bit harder just to get it to bite. I'm going to go through the basic construction of this, and then go over what I kind of use as my optional type of things. So like the glitter glue, glitter snow, and stickles and whatnot, that I can leave to your imagination. So the next part is the actual tree itself. And as I said, I got this SVG from the Silhouette library. There were many that I had and chose, but this one had 5 layers, which is the same amount as, and it had rounded kind of tree limbs, which is very similar to what Christy had done with the tree. So I thought that was perfect, but it is symmetrical. So the first bit is, you want to bend and crease, and you can use your bone folder. All but one of these, and how many you use is going to be up to you. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I print and cut 6 of them. And that enables this to stand as well, which is kind of important, but you can have more or you can have less. I think the least amount that I've seen on something like this was 3. Obviously you have the 3 points on the ground, it's going to be fine, but I like it with a little bit more, and I think 8 would be a bit too much. So since I have cut 6, I want to go ahead and bend 5 of them and leave the 6th one alone for now. We will bend it eventually, but that way I know that that last one is going to be the flat edge that we're actually going to adhere the stamp to, the clear stamp to. But the rest of them we need to glue to each other. So when you're folding them, you want to go face to face. So you have the smooth there and the textured cardstock on there, and you can also do this pattern paper, which is what I did on the pumpkin. So the pattern would be facing each other and smooth, and then what we do is that we glue each side to each side. So like that, and you just go around almost in a complete circle. If you were just making the tree ornament, you would go in a complete circle, but each section to each section, and that's why liquid glue is good. You want a thin layer of it, and then you place it, and you want to actually move it around a little bit. And what that does is it evens out the glue, so you don't have any bulges. And then press it until it grabs. And once it grabs, just fold that. And let's go on to the next one. You don't want to get the exact middle, and that is because we're going to put a ribbon there. If you're going to just have this stand, you don't need to put that ribbon, because once you put the ribbon, it does kind of it puts things out of whack a little bit. So things get off a little bit just on one of them. And that's where using things like stickles and snow, fake snow on the tree behind it, it hides those imperfections. It also hides if you use too much glue, and Eileen's is good because it does dry clear, but it does kind of leave a little something on there, so you can tell that there was something on there, especially if you're doing this on black cardstock. So the stickles will hide that. Another reason why I suggest using liquid glue instead of your tape glider is that it's much easier to get out onto the branches with the liquid glue than on the tape glider. And although that's very quick and you don't have to worry about it drying, if you do a good enough job on pressing them down here, the drying time isn't long. But you will want to let this cure, so just sit and leave it alone for at least a day before you hang it up on your tree, I would suggest. Or handing it to, well, or handling it in general, especially if you use stickles. I know it's a tradition here in Sweden, and sometimes we did it in the US with my family, but we always do we have a craft day right before Christmas. So this is something that you can easily do with the kids. You can have everything cut out. You can do the 3D kind of tree if you just use circles. And the same concept, if you have a circle, just crease it down the middle and go around in a circle. You'll be able to do just a regular bauble in this 3D way. Okay. So trying to adjust a little bit. I see how gotten slipped down on some of them. Actually, all of them slipped down at one point. But we see, we have that open. We have that half circle. So that opens up quite nicely. And this section is flat. What we do with the flat one is that we will now glue this there. So now different ways to do this. On the first tree, I bent and did one side at a time, but I think we're going to try to do both at a time right now. I have faith in myself, I can do it. Make sure you have the texture out on that, on this last one as well. So you want to match up. And if it's not going to be perfect, go ahead and bend. I think, yeah, you need to bend it anyways. Oh crap. Oh. Aha. Another reason to use glue. I forgot the ribbon. I mess up all the time. For now, I'm just going to set the ribbon in the middle of it. And because I don't put the glue all the way down the center, there's a somewhat of a pocket there. So I'll be able to adjust it afterwards. I also make sure there's enough on each side. And I can do that too. So I'm gonna hold that and hold that. Gonna put a little more glue on it. So you can already see it starting to dry. Now if this side has bumps, that's okay because this side is not being seen. I found out we need to have this a little bit bent to get it matched up. So, and this is where it does get off because of the ribbon. Now I'd rather have it not overlapped all the way or off behind because that's the stickles will completely cover that versus in the front where the image doesn't completely cover the tree, and so that would actually be shown. But it's up to you, and I'm sure you can find an easier way to do this too. Okay, so that fanning out will be easily done later, especially once it's dry. So right now it stands. We have the 3D tree. We have it fanned out in the back. This is a little off center, but we will cover that with stickles, or you can do that with fake snow. The only thing that's left to actually put it together is to glue this right on top of it. And you see that it doesn't fit it perfectly, but that's why you want to use a similar color in this. The darker green adds a nice little shadow. You don't even see it once you get it all decorated. Now, there are definitely places that you want to hold it. Make sure that there's contact with the glue. Because this top section has 5 different layers on it, plus the foam, I've had to make sure to really hold that down until it bites. Okay, so there we have it. Nice little standing slash ornament. And this is the finished piece there. I hope you give this a shot. It's such a good and easy thing to create and so much fun, and it'll look fantastic on my tree when I finally get one. So keep the idea of 3D decoupage, not decoupage, but 3D paper piecing. Just, you can use it with so many different images, and it can take a boring image or one that you've used countless of times and just make it so interesting just to be able to do this. And being able to layer it section by section, it creates, it takes some planning, so it's good to actually teach the kids on how to visualize a project with each step and use what you have to actually create it to the end. So thank you for watching the video. If you made it all the way to the end, woohoo, thank you. Two thumbs up. And I'll see you in Facebook.